is the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast.
Hello, hello, hello. It's me, the Celebrity Media. I'm back with another edition of the Celebrity Afterlife Report. The only show anywhere, as near as I can tell, that brings you the up-to-the-minute gossip about all your favorite deceased celebrities. We got some really good stuff this week. Some came completely out of the blue, and some of them are follow-ups to stories we've talked about for a while now. You're just going to have to hang around and listen for the next several minutes to find out which one is which. All right, David Ogden Stiers. You remember him from MASH? He played Charles Emerson Winchester III. He was Hawkeye and BJ's tent mate. He just transitioned to the afterlife a few days ago. His arrival ceremony had a good crowd on hand, some of them wearing scrubs to honor his work on MASH there. Something you may not know about him, he was a voice in the science fiction movie THX 1138. Kind of a low-budget film that was done, I think, back in the 70s. Yeah, he was a voice on that. Strange, huh? And yes, it is where the THX Stereo Theater System name comes from. Now, here's the interesting part. He was talking to the crowd, and he did the Charles Emerson Winchester voice for them, the accent and so forth. And people were very amused by that. And then after his arrival ceremony, he was approached by John Mahoney. Now, we were talking about John Mahoney just recently. John Mahoney played the father on Frasier. He was Frasier and Niles' dad. And David Ogden Stiers appeared on at least one episode of Frasier. He played a character who was so similar to Frasier and Niles that their father, Martin, actually thought he might be this guy's dad, too. So these two actors have known each other for, since the 90s. Now, according to some of my sources, John Mahoney went over to David Ogden Stiers, and they were talking for a while. And some of my sources are kind of snoopy. They're kind of eavesdroppers. They tell me that it looked as if Mahoney had some ideas for him. So people are speculating that maybe there's a joint venture in the works. We don't really know any details at this point. And of course, it's early days, so the whole thing might fall apart, even if they do have plans. We shall see. Long-time listeners are familiar with the name Mediopolis. That's the town that at one point was called Trump City. Yes. A long, convoluted story involving Donald Trump's father, Fred. Anyway, he got forced out of there, he and his little cult. And the town was taken over by Steve Jobs and Walt Disney. Jobs wanted to turn it into a high-tech R&D center. Walt, on the other hand, had different plans. He wanted it to be kind of an entertainment place, similar to the Main Street USA in Disneyland and Disney World's Magic Kingdoms. So now the front end of it is kind of like Main Street USA, and the back end is walled off from the rest of the town, and that's Jobs' little domain back there where he runs his high-tech lab. Now, Walt Disney has invited abstract artist Jackson Pollock to put murals around Mediopolis. See, there's a wall that goes all the way around the town, and it's fairly high, I am told. And he has invited Pollock, Disney has, to put abstract murals on it. Now, a lot of people think that's a jab at Steve Jobs because Jobs and Disney have had this falling out. The murals will be on the inside facing part of the wall. Jobs, and it's a whole mess, man. Go check the archives. You'll find out what the animus is between Steve Jobs and Jackson Pollock. So people think Disney is doing this just to piss off Jobs. Meanwhile, at the same time, the show Mayberry Today, which is basically the old Andy Griffith show set in present day, it has begun production in the front end of the town because the front end failed as a tourist attraction. So Disney is now renting it out as a location for shooting movies and TV shows. So Mayberry Today is there. The show is set in the present day, as I said, but Opie is described as being off in college, which doesn't really line up with the fact that the actors look like they did on the original show. because that's how the afterlife is. You look like you did it your adult best on the earthly plane. And that applies to all of them, except for Don Knotts, who has become a physical fitness buff over the last few years. So, like, facially looks the same, but he's a lot more muscular. How they're going to explain all this, I do not know. But apparently they have ideas, they have it worked out, and that's proceeding. We'll see what happens as we know more. Is the Sultan of SWAT about to strike out? Why do I ask, you say? Because rumors are swirling that Babe Ruth is in danger of being fired by the management of Heaven 107, the radio station he works at. He is the morning drive guy on that station, and people say he is the next world's answer to Howard Stern. They say he's even raunchier than Stern was in his prime. He's really, really offensive to some people. Well, ratings have been dropping because he's backed off his shock jock ways in recent weeks. Because he felt really bad about what he did to a guest. He doesn't feel good about it. So he says he wants to be a better person. But in the meantime, the audience has been abandoning the station. So anonymous station insiders have been quoted in the press as saying, Babe Ruth may be dumped if the numbers don't improve soon. But for his part, Ruth says he doesn't care. He still feels bad about what he did to Jimmy Pearsall. He's been doing some serious soul searching, and he doesn't want to go back to the kind of show that made him probably the most famous radio personality in the afterlife. So his gig is hanging in the balance. And I've worked in radio. I don't know the situation since I'm not in the afterlife, but I'm going to guess there'll be a decision made fairly soon, because that's pretty much how radio works. So something's going to have to happen with Babe Ruth's morning show, and I will tell you just as soon as I know what that something is. Okay, Debbie Reynolds and her daughter Carrie Fisher, you know who they are. They've been hosting a show called The Girls. It's kind of like The View. It's that kind of a show. It's a female chat show. It's just the two of them, mostly. They do bring in, a temporary co-host sometimes, but they talk about anything and everything. Well, right now, the show is running a lot of promos, promising an upcoming appearance by Adolf Hitler and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who you may know have been best friends and roommates for some time. Hitler changed his ways, much like Babe Ruth is promising to do. And those two have been doing anti-racist protests and whatnot over the past couple of years. This interview is billed as, quote, the most shocking interview Debbie and Carrie have ever done. Now, everybody who works on the show is being very tight-lipped about the subject matter, because my understanding is the interview has been pre-taped. So we don't know what it's about, but the show is set to air over the next week. So chances are, by the next time you hear from me, we will know exactly what went down during the interview. And the way they're promoting it, I hope it lives up to the hype, because it sounds pretty gosh darn good to me. Okay, that's it. I'm out of here. I am gone with the wind. I'll be back next week with more up-to-the-minute gossip about all your favorite deceased celebs. In the meantime, check us out on, we are on iTunes. We are in the Google Play Store. We are on YouTube, and we can be heard, and by we I mean me, of course, on K-Chung, AM 1630 in Los Angeles, where the show is run on Monday afternoons at 1 o'clock. As part of a larger show called Inspirato Projecto Radio. That's where you can find us. Tell your friends about it, please, on the celebrity medium. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast. To ask a question about your favorite deceased celebrity, call 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-369-3732.